Chapter 1. Once upon a time in Hollywood, the journalist power couple. Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. Not so many, not too many people can get me off the couch on a cold winter's night to make the long drive south, about 30 minutes, down the 101 in the pouring rain. But Ivor Davis can. And so I found myself on this cold night at a warm conversation at Ivor Davis's Q&A on the 60th anniversary re-release of his book, The Beatles and Me, on tour. And this was at the Ventura Museum of Ventura County. So this interview today with Ivor Davis was actually scheduled for last month. But Ivor's schedule and then finally his voice gave out. So the day after the Q&A in Ventura that I mentioned, Ivor went down to Los Angeles to tape back-to-back interviews for a Hulu and a Netflix documentary on his book about the Manson murders called Manson Exposed, a reporter's 50-year journey into madness and murder. And I have patiently marked the days until his voice would return. And it has. And so has he. Forget keeping up with the Kardashians. I dare you to try to keep up with Ivor for just one day. He goes by the Cockney Kid. He's dynamic, unrelenting, connected, and he has an endless energy. He has a curiosity that will spark your own. For over a half century, Ivor Davis has been a writer for the Express and the Times of London. He penned a weekly entertainment column for the New York Times. This is for over 15 years, I believe, interviewing some of the biggest names in show business, from Cary Grant to Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton to Tom Cruise, and Muhammad Ali. He was the only British daily newspaper correspondent to cover the Beatles' first American tour from start to finish, and was given unparalleled access to John, Paul, George, and Ringo on the road. Welcome back to the show, Ivor Davis. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Jeremiah. It's always good fun, and we have great conversations when I am on the air with you. So thank you.
I look forward to, and this is so honest and genuine. Every time I get to hang out with you or get a few minutes to hear some stories and talk with you, it's always a real pleasure. I really mean that. So this is exciting, exciting news. It's been 40 years in the making, but finally, your new book is about to be released about your neighbor and friend, the killer Fred Roehler, and is due out coming up on May 7th. It's called The Devil and My Friend, the inside story of a Malibu murder. It's on the Amazon website and available now for pre-order. So let me take a pause here real quick in the story and tell you, here's what you go do. Hop onto the Amazon website and you punch in The Devil and My Friend by Ivor Davis and Sally Ogle Davis and pre-order the new hardback book. You will be intrigued and fascinated, even horrified by the finished work, which has been a long and extremely winding road to completion. So 40 years, Ivor, that you've been working on this story?
Yes, I have. It's a complicated story. It almost got published 40 years ago, and then Fred Roehler, who is incarcerated in a jail in California for life without possibility of parole, actually got his lawyer to call the publishing company back then, decades ago, threatened them with a lawsuit, and this heavyweight, gigantic publishing company, who were just scared out of their minds because They were scared out of their minds because another publishing company had been sued by McGuinness, who wrote a book about a Green Beret captain. And so my publishing company 40 years ago chickened out. But this has been in my skin and under my skin for so long that I'm thrilled that this amazing story, and I sound like I'm boosting the story, but it is an incredible story, that this amazing story is finally coming out in book form in early May. So thank you for your mention of it. And what else can I tell you about this
Well,
remarkable story of a friendship that went
yeah.
awry?
Oh man. You're going to tell us more about it, I hope, here in a moment. But why now? Why did or at what point did you say it's ready to go, it's ready to share with the world?
Well, what happened was it's one of those things. It's, when you talk to Hollywood producers and directors, and I have done, and say to them, this is a great movie. And then they tell you the story that it took them 15 years to bring it to the screen. It's not an uncommon trait. And so that my book is a little bit like that. I have great faith in it. It was written beautifully. I mean, mostly by Sally, although I was there for the ride. And it's just, when I read it again, it is a terrific story of a friendship gone rotten, if you like. And in a way, I thought there are so many of us out there, Jeremiah, who have friends, and then suddenly their friend turns out to be maybe a ne'er do well or something about them that they never knew. My friend turned out to be a cold blooded killer, but that's the book. And then you discover as a reporter that he was guilty of murdering wife, his wife, who was a children's kindergarten teacher at my kids' school in Malibu in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. And he, when you investigate his background, you discover that he was not only guilty of murdering his second wife, Verna, a beautiful blonde, and their 6-year-old son, who was the same age as my son. And my son is now a good-looking guy with a wonderful family, and I wonder all the time whether Douglas Roehler, or Douglas Johnson as his name was, he was a stepson, whether Douglas Johnson would have grown up, given the opportunity to be a wonderful adult, a wonderful parent. So there's a lot of things going on there. And therefore, that was one of the key reasons why I said, I've got to get this book out, plus the fact that I wrote it with my late wife, Sally.
If you don't mind, Ivor, you've been on a couple times. We gotten to know each other over the years, but I didn't know much about Sally Ogle, and I did a little bit of background on her. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just talk about her for a moment.
Thank you.
Um, as you said, you wrote this book with your late wife, Sally Ogle Davis. Um, Sally Ogle Davis was a teenage television personality in Northern Ireland, and she chronicled the famous and the powerful in Hollywood. And she was an activist in Jewish arts and synagogue life. She was born in London into a showbiz family and raised in Belfast. She broke into television at the age of 18. And the Irish Times says of Sally Ogle, when television was black and white, Sally Ogle brought glamour to the nightly news programs during the 1960s when she became a presenter on UTV and the BBC Northern Ireland, where her stunning looks and razor-sharp intellect marked her out for greater things. And sadly, at her passing in 2012, after a 2-year battle with pancreatic cancer, it ended this 45-year beautiful relationship that you had together. You guys were creative writing partners, investigative journalists together. Um, and after you guys married and immigrated to the United States in 67, both both of you worked for 20 years as editors at Los Angeles Magazine, reported for British newspapers and TV, and wrote columns for the Jewish Journal. In Los Angeles, Sally Ogle found her main niche in reporting on the glamorous and the political sides of the adopted city of Los Angeles, specializing in incisive interviews with newsmakers ranging from Paul Newman to Ronald Reagan. She had assignments all over the West Coast, and she was a correspondent for the BBC, a documentary producer for CBS TV, and a contributor to the New York Times Sunday magazine. Wow, you two are such a power couple. Tell us, this is what I, read about her, and she just sounds so fascinating. But if you wouldn't mind, describe, you know, the Sally Ogle that you loved and knew and worked with.
Well, it's good. Thanks for that. It it's terrific to work with your partner. She was brilliant as a writer. You got me, you hit me with that.
I'm sorry. She just sounds so fascinating. You're so fascinating. And when I read about her, I thought, wow, the two of them. Like, I wish I knew, had got to know her as well. But the two of you together, I mean, you probably inspired each other, I'm sure, quite a bit.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm sorry to be, you know me, I'm a loud mouth, but
Well,
um, but it was
the love of your life.
a great teaming, and we thought alike. And she was the brilliant writer. I was the digger. I was the
Hmm.
person that could dig up the facts because my background was as a daily news reporter and a foreign correspondent. And you just stick to the facts, ma'am. You stick to the facts,
Yeah.
and so it was an intriguing soup, a combination of her
Yeah.
talents as a writer and as a broadcaster, and mine as a digger up of facts. So it's not a bad little team. But
I
thank
found
you.
a really great quote that you described. This is for the Ventura County Star to give them credit. But you described your professional relationship with Sally Ogle like this. You say, I spent my life as a foreign correspondent, and I was a meat and potatoes writer. Sally was the creme de la creme writer. We discovered we could work together on stories. And as you said just now, I did the digging and Sally did the finishing touches.
Yeah.
So what are some of the and from your perspective, you sent out an email earlier today and you gushed a little bit about how she had contributed so much to this story, The Devil and My Friend, the new novel that you're releasing on May 7th. What are some of the highlights that she contributed to this book, Ivor?
Well, don't forget, as a reporter, you do report on the hard news, and I was very good at that. But she has the little emoluments, the way that Fred Rayler's wife and what not his wife, Fred Rayler's mother acted, what she was wearing, and those kind of incredible touches of detail that a novelist has rather than a reporter. And I
Hmm.
think from that point of view, that's why the new book is so full of visual, graphic descriptions, even to down to the shoes. Who knows what shoes you're wearing? Well, unless you're wearing alligator shoes or boots up to your knee, I wouldn't notice. But those kind of finishing touches give almost a novelized touch to a factual book.
Hmm. I can't wait to read it. I got to get a copy. You always send me copies. I've got my copy here. Let's see if you can see this. The Beatles and Me on Tour, the 60th anniversary edition. Ivor sent this to me. Thank you so much, my friend. But I can't wait to get this next book. We'll have to pre-order it for you.
Thank you.
Get those pre-order sales in there. I'm going to give you out all the information here at the commercial break coming up. I just wanted to have a question and something else I read about Sally Ogle from Rabbi Lisa Hochberg Miller of the Beth Torah. She recalled of your wife. Sally was unquestionably one of the brightest women that most of us have ever met. She had an incredible interest in just about everything. And I thought that could be a description of Ivor. You both share this interest in everything. You were obviously meant for each other. The question that sparked for me, Ivor, was do you think having an incredible interest in everything, quote unquote, is one of the secret ingredients in the pie of life?
Um, you know, you're right. And the key factor is that you need to have a passion for what you do. You have a passion for what you do. And I was talking to 96-year-old documentarian Frederick Weissman last week in Pasadena. And he is just, Frederick Weissman is, if you look at his background, he's done so many brilliant documentaries over a 60, 70-year span. And here is this 96-year-old guy who's done a new documentary about food, a brilliant documentary about food. He shot it, he directed it, and he edited it. And I said to him, Frederick, how the hell do you do it at your age? And he said, I said, give me the recipe. And he said, I love what I do, and that keeps me going. And I think that is the Monty Python meaning of life, if you can do it. And the people I know, like you and a lot of other people who are active are passionate about. They like people. They're always asking questions. And once you lose interest, because you do find people who, when they quit work, maybe they worked in a rather dreary job, then they're not interested anymore. So this is the formula, and everybody as they get older wants a secret formula, a secret recipe. There isn't a secret recipe except touching upon some of the things that you and I have discussed in the last couple of minutes.
Okay, so that's perfect. I think that definitely, I think that's true. That definitely drives me being curious and caring and wanting to know more and be having an interest in people and life and all the things that come along. So
And
we're going to take a break right now.
Jeremiah, you have an inquisitive mind. You enjoy what you do. You enjoy talking to people, and you're a you're an outgoing guy. And I think that's part of the magic, or the magic formula, because everybody wants to know, how do you keep going? And that's one of the ways. You can go to the gym. I go to the gym. I don't know what you do. Do you run? You run marathons? Do you? But you have to keep active. And once you sit in the armchair and become a couch potato, it ain't good.
Well, you got me out of the couch that night, that rainy night, to come see you, and nobody else could do that for me.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you a little secret, Ivor. This is a little secret about me. You inspire me. Watching, you're so complimentary to me, but you inspire me. You inspire me uh, to just keep going. You're one of those people in my life that inspires me. So that's a
Well,
true
I'll
story.
just
So
throw
hey,
this in. What as I say, this isn't supposed to be the Jeremiah Ivor Mutual Admiration Society. But when I see you
thanks for
are
coming.
juggling, you are one of these guys that can keep six balls in the air at the same time, and that's impossible. So how the hell do you do it?
I'm telling you, you're my inspiration,
Yeah.
Ivor. Okay,
Yeah.
coming up, chapter 2, Murder, he wrote. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We're going to dig into the new book in just a moment when we come back on the other side of the break. I am talking to my good friend, Ivor Davis. Ivor is joining me. Are you in Ventura today, my friend?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to go to ivordavisbooks.com or go to Amazon. I found it on Barnes and Nobles. I found it on a lot of places. Go pre-order right now. Save it May 7th. You'll have a nice little surprise in the mail. It's the new book by Ivor Davis. It's called The Devil in My Mind, The Inside Story of a Malibu Murder by Ivor Davis with Sally Ogle Davis. Ivor and Sally Davis were horrified when their Malibu neighbors, Verna Roehler and her son, Doug, died in a terrible boating accident. The nightmare only continued when her husband, their friend, Fred Roehler, was arrested and then convicted for their murder. As investigative writers, they set out hoping to find Roehler innocent, but instead they found a viper's nest of deceit and murder. You will be intrigued and fascinated, even horrified by the devil and my friend, the inside story of a Malibu murder. It's out May 7th, published by Roman and Littlefield Publishers. Again, go get it at ivordavisbooks.com or Amazon pre-order. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. My story with Ivor Davis continues.